Hey there, friends. I have some pretty troubling news that I'm going to share with you today that you ain't going to find on the state-run media. First, guys, go check out my friends' attorneys on retainer. These guys are not an insurance company. You've heard all the old news about the insurance companies, and some have changed their policies because they've got called out on stuff. Why bother going with somebody who has to tweak their policy to make people happy? Go with an actual attorney firm who's already making people happy. These guys at Attorneys on Retainer, they're who I have. They're who I trust my livelihood and my future to, knowing that if I'm carrying a firearm and I unfortunately have to end up using it, I'm protected by an attorney, not an intern on a telephone trying to determine what person they need to pass you through on a switchboard who's going to determine if they're going to cover you anyway. Sign up now, my friends, Attorneys on Retainer, for optimum protection in the unlikely event you have to draw your carry firearm in self-defense. Use my code FTATF and receive $50 off your individual sign-up fee. Again, use my code FTATF and receive $50 off your individual sign-up fee. So far, 2 that we know of assassination attempts against Donald Trump, right? 2 that we know of. This was some troubling news that came out from Matt Gaetz this week. And instead of trying to explain what he's talking about, I want you to hear it from him first, and let's tear down what he has to say after this.
Break a little news for you. I had a senior official from the Department of Homeland Security in my office before the second assassination attempt saying that what he has assessed is that there are 5 known assassination teams in the United States, 3 inspired by other governments, 2 that are here that are known domestic assassination teams. And with that, this individual was coming to me concerned that the force protection around President Trump, even prior to that second assassination attempt, was not sufficient for what it needed to be. And the coordination at that level, at the dignitary protection level, is like the bare minimum that we have to do to keep our presidents, our presidential candidates safe while they're on the trail.
So there are 5, I just want to follow up, 5 assassination teams. Are they all targeting Trump? Is it other officials?
Yes. No, wow. I should have been clear about that. 5 teams that we know are targeting Trump. And so that raises real questions about why certain teams were being pulled off of the Trump detail and put on, for example, the Jill Biden detail. Now, we don't want anything bad to happen to Jill Biden, but at the same time, the threat envelope for her was substantially different than the threat envelope around President Trump, and it would not have necessitated pulling assets away from the Trump detail for the Jill Biden detail or the John Bolton detail or any other details that were beefed up. At the same time, the requests from the Trump detail and from the Trump campaign for more security were going unanswered.
In every conceivable way, that's dangerous. So we've got 5 known assassination teams, according to the Department of Homeland Security. Now, real quick, remember, this is a person that came to Matt Gaetz from the DHS who is responsible for all of the shortcomings. So take that with a grain of salt. However, this is similar to probably what you would consider in the form of a whistleblower. This person clearly does not have the approval of any of the people in DHS, DOJ, anyone like that. I can assure you that Mayorkas is not in favor of this person going tell Matt Gaetz this. Why? Because the likes of Ron Rowe and Director Cheadle, who stepped down from the Secret Service, all these people report up through the Department of Homeland Security. They have shown themselves with a series of coincidences that are just too remarkable to be coincidences anymore. This is now a trend. It moved from being coincidence to a trend. So if we are smart enough to follow the trend and stay away from the dangers, which is Secret Service, FBI, any of those folks out there, then we have to believe that somebody that steps out of line probably is more believable, because we've been lied to so many times by the Secret Service and, of course, Mayorkas. Mayorkas should be in prison right now. I'm sure this is probably going to get me in trouble, but I'm going to say it anyway. Somebody ought to put this guy in handcuffs. He ought to be tried for treason, and whatever needs to happen per the Constitution regarding treason needs to happen to Mayorkas, because this guy has been at the tip of the spear for every screw up, whether it's the border or Donald Trump almost being killed. He's not even fired, let alone freaking arrested at this point. But Gaetz mentioned that we have out of the 5 known assassination teams out there, and that's scary that he's even quantifying it as an assassination team, that 3 of those assassination teams are other governments and 2 of them are domesticated. So we can rule out, I think, the right-wing extremists or the white supremacists, because aren't they all supposed to be Trump supporters? So I guess the real domestic terrorists and the real domestic threats in this case aren't going to be Trump people, because the real domestic terrorists that DHS is talking about want Trump killed. So I guess we got a new domestic terrorist that we need to put on our little list, FBI. I'm talking to you. So based on what Gates is telling us, if we know about 5 known assassination teams, what are we doing about it? If I'm a member of Congress, I want to know, well, what are you doing about it? It's great that you have them identified. Awesome. So why are they still out there, right? Now, I'm not saying that if they've done nothing wrong, that you go lock them up, right? If they've done nothing wrong, they're not criminals. Clearly, somebody has a reason to think they're actual assassination teams. So I would want you to talk to them, right? Go talk to them. Find out why. Why are they being classified as an assassination team? I mean, by God, you guys can make a full list of things, all common about me and all common about you, that says, oh, if they use the word Second Amendment, right-wing extremist. If they say anything about a 3% right-wing domestic terrorists, all these, if they have the American flag, the Betsy Ross flag with the 13 colonies, right-wing extremists, everything that would point to an actual freaking patriot is considered a right-wing extremist. Yet you guys supposedly identify people that are part of actual assassination teams, and we don't hear anything about it, and nobody's being talked to. I'll bet you guys have talked to more people on your silly little right-wing list than you have regarding those 5 assassination teams, right? Now, if that's not troubling enough, I think we've actually had possibly at least a 3rd attempt on Donald Trump's life. Now, again, this one here, there's no, and I hate to use this term because it sounds like a cliche, but there's no smoking gun in this case. There's just, I guess, evidence, loose evidence at this point. Have you heard about the people at the Donald Trump rally in Arizona this past week? That 5 of the people in attendance had issues with their eyes, burning eyes. Again, I'm no eye doctor. I'm going to share this video next with you, and I want you to take it in with a grain of salt, because there's some really flimsy, I guess, accounts that are being discussed here.
Medical mystery following a Trump rally in Tucson last week. Nearly a dozen people now say that they suffered eye emergencies after standing on the stage with the former president.
Some of the people say the pain was so intense they actually had to go to the ER. 12 News journalist Jonathan McCall talked with a woman who's now asking for answers about what happened. He joins us in studio with the story. Jonathan?
Hey, Mark Caribe. Everyone trying to figure out exactly what happened during that rally last Thursday. Maya Rodriguez says the pain started after leaving that rally and quickly intensified. At one point, she says it was so strong she couldn't even open her eyes. Tonight, she now wants to know exactly what was the issue that caused the problem. A sight to see.
It was his first rally after the debate.
Maya Rodriguez face-to-face with former President Donald Trump at a Tucson rally last week.
She comes out, we were all pumped up.
A perfect view.
It was all the Latinos on that side of stage.
Quickly becoming blurry.
I told my husband, please take me to emergency room because something's wrong.
After leaving the rally, she says she began experiencing eye pain. Initially thinking it was allergies, she says when she couldn't open her eyes, she knew it was something else, and she quickly learned she wasn't alone.
Are you okay? Because other people that were with you at the rally went to the hospital.
Her eyes not deceiving her when she learned at least 5 other people in that same section also dealing with eye emergencies.
Friday, I thought I was going to be blind.
A doctor telling her she wasn't blinded by the light.
It was not the lights, the stage lights could not cause this.
Rodriguez says only supporters on one side of that stage were injured. She says the damage impacting her cornea, leaving her sensitive to light. In fact, she wore these glasses during our interview, but she says she will recover.
Today was the very first day that I could actually see straight with both eyes.
Rodriguez says she's been in touch with the Trump campaign about what happened. In a statement to 12 News, the campaign says in part, quote, "It's collecting information." Rodriguez says she didn't notice any questionable smells or anything in the air, but she's hoping to shine a bright light to look into what happened.
Of course, I would like to, but it will be nearly impossible, I think, at this point, so many days after the event.
So I don't think we can dismiss it totally. I do, not being an eye doctor of my own, I know that there are different types of chemicals that can do things to your eyes that can give you, not necessarily, I don't think it's temporary blindness. I'm not talking about acid bathing in your eye. I'm talking about the airborne disbursement of chemicals, not actually throwing the chemicals in your eyes. I think there are chemicals that can give you like puffy eyes, where they can actually tear up, things of that nature, create a film on your eyes. I'm not aware of anything that would give you temporary blindness like this lady was talking about. Again, this seems a little flimsy to me. Maybe there was something there and she's maybe exaggerating a little bit. Again, I'm not casting aspersions on her. I've never heard of this before. I've never heard of a chemical that is airborne giving somebody temporary blindness, and only 5 out of the whole group that were there. So if you understand what I'm talking about, I'm all about truth. It would be easy to run with this and go, oh, it was another attack on Donald Trump's life. And let's be real about it. The numbers don't support that this was an attack. However, maybe not everybody is susceptible to this. Maybe it didn't happen while they were on stage. Maybe it was in a restroom or something like that only these 5 people went to. It could have been a number of things out there. The thing that only makes me talk about this, and the only reason why I'm saying anything, is because 5 people have come forward. And those 5 people came forward not knowing about the others. This lady was actually in the hospital whenever the people in the hospital told her that there were other people that had come to the hospital with similar conditions that just so happened to be at the exact same place, and come to find out they were all in that same group. Only the 5 people from the group that did not know each other came from that group to the left behind Donald Trump at this particular rally. So that's why I'm giving it at least some attention, although the things don't add up. Now, I have read over the years about various things, and I'm not suspecting that this is it at all, but there are some kinds of symptoms that you can get like that are more, and I don't know the exact term, I wish I did, but it's just something I read in a scientific magazine years ago, but it's like a microwave type weapon, if you will, that can do that type of stuff. Again, I'm not suggesting that's what it is, because only 5 of the people. I'm just telling you there are some weird things that could happen out there. But if we're talking about weird things, did we ever expect that we would have somebody shooting an AR-15 from an unmanned building at Donald Trump? And did we ever think we'd have somebody hiding in the bushes at his golf course and almost get a shot off at him? No, weird things also. So I think we can't discount completely anything out there, because at this point, based on what we saw with those 5 people and what Matt Gaetz is telling us, that there are 5 assassination teams after Donald Trump, clearly these 5 teams, I'm thinking, have not been involved in the previous 2 assassination attempts. Let me explain something to you real quick. I don't know what level of, quote, training Crooks and Ralph had. Crooks being Butler and Ralph, the Florida shooter, or attempted shooter. I think the jury is still out on that, which I say that, no, there would never be a jury, but we know that Crooks had 43 days of training in a year, right? That's a lot of training. Don't know who trained him. Don't know if it was independent training that he took upon himself to do or what. Don't know what kind of training Ralph has. He did go to Ukraine. They told him he was too old and no real experience, so they wouldn't let him fight. So don't know if he's got any training there. I'm talking about formal training, like an assassination team. It seems like we had 2 idiots. Crooks and Ralph seem like screw-ups, right? They both seem like screw-ups. They really did. I mean, be honest with yourself. No matter how impressed you are that they completely hoodwinked the Secret Service, don't let that fool you. I think we're starting to see that the Secret Service is pretty incompetent. So let's take the Secret Service off of this pedestal and let's put them way down here. Now it doesn't seem so awesome what Crooks and Ralph did if we take away that super duper sniper, superhero-esque fiction that might be being talked about with the Secret Service people. So these guys were basically outsmarted. I'm talking about the Secret Service. Were outsmarted by 2 rookies, 2 amateurs, 2 screw-ups. If we have 5, quote, assassination teams out there, what if true professionals were trying to kill Donald Trump? Think about that. Crooks was not a professional. I don't care if he had formal training. The guy was not a seasoned professional, right? This was not the guy that you see in the movie that's, calmly putting the suppressor on the end of it, takes off 1 shot, disassembles his gun, puts it in a suitcase, and walks out while all the people are running out, screaming and crying and all that kind of stuff. That's not what Crooks was, and that's certainly not what Ralph was. So we're dealing with 2 incompetent rookies. Again, not sure what type of, quote, formal training they may have received, but they themselves were not professionals. What if these 5 teams, 2 domestic, 3 foreign, who want Trump dead, have actual professionals that work with them? Do you think they would have missed in Butler? Do you think they would have got that shot off or been as careless as Ralph was in the bushes? Let's face it, Ralph, I believe the reason why he is caught. We keep hearing people say, oh, he saw a muzzle sticking out of the fence from this far away. Look, guys, I'll be real honest with you, and I'll probably do a demonstration to show you. Those 2 backpacks that he's hanging on the fence, that's what drew the guy's attention. You could see that a mile away. I don't care what color they were, black, brown, could have been camouflage. When you see 2 square things hanging onto a fence like that, I promise you the guy saw those 2 things first, squinted a little bit, got a little closer, and then saw the muzzle and said, oh crap, that's a muzzle. So do you think a true professional would have done that? I'm not trying to coach the next guy up. I'm telling you, we got lucky. If we had true professionals involved, they wouldn't have been breakdancing around on a rooftop like Crooks was, and they certainly wouldn't have been flagging themselves with signs showing, I'm over here behind the fence like Ralph did. If we had true professionals involved, my guess is we would be singing a different tune right now. We would probably be singing a hymn at a church, more specifically a funeral right now. I think this is very serious that someone from Department of Homeland Security is telling members of Congress that we have legitimate assassination teams out there. In closing, let me ask you this, and think about this. This is not a threat for my FBI, my designated FBI guy who watches me. This is my disclaimer for him. This is not a threat. This is not me. You know me. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to protect myself and my family. I'm not going after anybody who doesn't try to do me harm. So take that. Are people on the left so soft and such candy asses that when somebody says something that hurts their feelings, that suddenly they get numb to the fact that someone is trying to kill that human being and they become okay with that? Just because somebody said words that hurt themselves. There's not one person out there who hates Trump who was not better off whenever he was in office. You can't name a thing he did while he was in office that hurt you or your family. But you can name little things that he said on Twitter or whatever that hurt your feelings. Am I the only one in my age group, I know that I'm not, that thinks, boy, if you guys get your feelings hurt that bad today, should have been here 20 or 30 years ago.
Little boy Blue, he needed the money. Oh!
They would have never survived during our time. You notice how our enemies and all the nutbags are the ones who happen to want Donald Trump killed? You notice how nobody's trying to take out Kamala, Joe Biden, anybody else on that side? Have you noticed that? I didn't hear Gates or anyone else talk about we have 5 teams or even 1 who are a Kamala assassination team. Nobody wants to take out Kamala, or Joe for that matter. Nobody wants them gone. Our enemies, think about this. Our enemies are trying to vote with a bullet. Our enemies want Kamala to win. Our enemies are trying to eliminate Kamala's opposition. Think about that. Think hard about that. Ukraine, I guarantee you, was one of the countries. Guarantee you. because Donald Trump wants to put a stop to the bleeding of money to Ukraine, likely China and probably Russia. I'm going to leave you with our enemies want Kamala to win. Our enemies not only don't want to take a chance in Donald Trump winning, they want to solidify that by eliminating him from the race completely. That should worry every one of us, including the ones on the far left.
I don't understand the point that you're making.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. It's over.